The weapon system Dr. Teller was trying to sell was classified and would not openly be discussed, but the presentations indicated this Star Wars weapon was in fact HAARP. In 1995, Congress killed funding for Star Wars, but HAARP continues as the ultimate SDI radio frequency radiation weapon. The HAARP project manager describes the experiment of Earth-penetrating capability using, quote, frequencies of 10 to 20 Hertz pulses per second, or maybe 1 Hertz, 1 cycle per second type waves, unquote. This range of frequencies are the same dominant frequencies within which the human brain normally operates. Objections to non-disclosure of the biological effects of ELF on living things were ignored. The military, particularly the Navy and Air Force, have extensive research on the negative effects of ELF. These effects have been well documented, but the government easily deflects public concern by playing down the effects and minimizing the risks. This is the same method used for other military systems, including nuclear weapons tests, LSD experiments, and radiation experiments, all carried out on unknowing subjects under the guise of national security.
Is one of several ELF wave transmitters located all over the globe. The United States owns and operates 3 of them, one in Gacona, Alaska, another in Fairbanks, Alaska, and one in Arecibo, Puerto Rico, near Nizhny Novgorod, and the European. Russia has one in Vasilur, and the Union has one near Tromsø in Norway. Working in tandem, these transmitters could potentially alter the weather anywhere in the world, changing the jet stream's course entirely, triggering massive rainstorms or droughts. Even hurricane steering would be possible by heating up the atmosphere and building up high-pressure domes that could deflect or change the course of hurricanes. The U.S. government is firm in its position that HAARP is just an atmospheric research facility. But is it more than coincidence that since going online, some experts have reported strange weather anomalies, including massive floods, hurricanes, and earthquakes? HAARP went online in 1994, and construction continued until 2007. There are reportedly a total of 5 known ionospheric heaters, including HAARP, in the world today. There are possibly 20 other ionospheric heaters in existence all over the world. There is no
He happened to be in the office at the time when the earthquake happened. It was significant and shook our office, which is a large concrete building, which is 2 to 3 stories high. Of course, immediate reaction was to get into the doorways. As soon as it left, we had to evacuate all of our staff. Thankfully, none of our staff have been injured in the office. However, our compound is probably built better than most structures in this area.
And so you can only imagine what's going on. Do you have any initial reports of casualties, deaths, and injuries, Mr. Rogers?
No, unfortunately, we haven't been able to get any information per se. We have been in contact with our staff who had left. Some staff had left for the day, and we are trying to gather information now. Staff who has now tried to leave the compound had to return. There was another subsequent aftershock, which was significant and is bringing down extra earth and landslides onto the road, so it's unsafe to move at this moment in time. What I can hear is very distressed people all around in the neighbourhood that we are in. There is a lot of distress and wailing of obviously people trying to find loved ones who are trapped under building and rubble.
All right, so you're basically hearing...
Correct. I mean, obviously the Haitian authorities will be trying to respond the best that they can, but all power seems to be out in Port-au-Prince. It is obviously very dark at the moment. There are some houses lit up that are obviously using their own generator. We ourselves, as a compound, have our own generator. Of course, we can't enter our office because now there is a significant amount of water that has spilled in the office, and we're unsure whether or not there is a live case.
The president shortly after 9 a.m. in Hawaii, where he's spending his Christmas vacation. NBC's Chuck Todd is there with more on how the White House is responding tonight. Chuck, good evening to you.
Good evening, Carl. Well, as you noted, the president did receive word about this incident about 9:30 this morning, Hawaii time. He's been doing a couple of secure conference calls with his chief counterterrorism advisor, John Brennan, who is back in Washington, and his highest-ranking national security advisor official here, Dennis McDonough, who's chief of staff of the National Security Council. He's received 2 updates so far. He's going to get a 3rd one before the day is ordered, sort of real-time information as they've been getting information during the interrogation process of the suspect, who, of course, is now detained, Carl.
Chuck, we know this is the president's and his family's.
Many of them are being used as weather weapons, though they do have the ability to manipulate the ionosphere. And that brings us to something else. December 2001. Scientists at NASA's Ames Research Center in Palo Alto, California, make a discovery. In studying more than 100 earthquakes with magnitudes of 5.0 or greater, they find that almost all of them are preceded by electrical disturbances in the ionosphere. Could there be a connection to HAARP or a facility like it?
To say that HAARP can artificially excite the ionosphere in such a way to cause an earthquake, well, it alarms me.
Dr. Agnew experienced the power of ELF waves firsthand back in the 1980s. He was hired by an energy company to locate oil and gas using the same kind of ELF waves at much lower frequencies to carry out his search. It's a process called Earth tomography. During one particular incident, Dr. Agnew believes his use of HAARP-like ELF waves accidentally triggered an earthquake.
It was in the spring of 1987, we arrived in Roseburg, Oregon, to use our ELF technology to search for oil and gas. Setting up that day had a little bit different results than we expected, because the instant that we energized it, there was between a 4 and 4.5 on the Richter scale earthquake that occurred. We were so amazed about what seemed to be cause and effect. We get to an area that has a high propensity for earthquakes, in an area known as the megathrust of the Pacific Northwest. We turn it on, and an earthquake occurs.
Dr. Agnew demonstrates how he may have triggered the quake.
This is a scale model of what the area looked like in Oregon when we scanned for oil and gas in 1987. The strata right here represents the megathrust area underneath the ground. The rock represents a potential energy set up in the ground from a tectonic stress. What we're going to do is introduce ELF waves and demonstrate that it can in fact trigger an earthquake.
In this case, Dr. Agnew is using a stereo speaker to produce the ELF waves needed for his demonstration.
ELF waves, extremely low frequency waves, are just like a subwoofer. In your car, you can actually feel the vibrations through your body. ELF waves are the same way. They vibrate the earth, and at right resonant frequency